Okay, guys, welcome to Strongholds Python for Kids class. So, this is one of six lessons that will enable you to be able to learn how to code in Python. And eventually, by the end of the sixth lesson, you should be able to create a Python game on your own. Okay, so let's begin. In today's lesson, we'll be learning what computers are and how they work, what programming is, what programming languages and the types of programming languages that exist. We'll get to understand what Python is, how it works. Then we get to understand what an IDE is and how to create one. So, what is a computer? A computer is an electronic device for storing and processing data, typically in binary form, according to instructions given to it in a variable program. Computers usually do this by executing programs that instruct the computer what to do. And these programs that instruct the computer what to do are also called or can also be called code. And they're actually a set of instructions that tell a computer what to do and how to do it. Okay, so here's a short video that further explains what computer programming are.
.com for much more. Dad, you been standing here all night? Uh-oh. Were you dividing by zero again? Dear Tim and Moby, what is computer programming? Thanks, Amy. You picked a good time to ask. Moby zapped his operations chip and he can't seem to do anything. Right, buddy? Don't worry, I've got you covered. Switch you over to voice command. There. Now I can program you until your replacement chip arrives. I know, your brain is no ordinary computer. But it does have some things in common with the ones people use. Computers can do all sorts of amazing things, from navigating the internet to piloting an airplane. But they can't do anything at all without a set of instructions. That's all a computer program is, a series of steps that a computer can follow. And somebody has to write those steps. Unlike you, computers can't really understand English. So programmers have to write their instructions in special languages. That's called coding, and the lines of instructions are known as code. There are literally hundreds of different languages. Thankfully, you don't need to know any of them to understand some programming basics. Just follow along as I code Moby. Okay, Moby, walk to the counter. Remember that programs need to be really specific. They have to be step-by-step ordered instructions, an algorithm. That's why so many programming tools automatically number your lines of code. Let's try it. First, lift your right foot, then move it ahead of your left foot, then put it down. Great. Let's call those 3 lines step right and save it as a function. That's like a mini program we can call on whenever we want. Now, let's make an identical step function for the left foot. Step left, then step right. Now repeat lines 1 and 2 over and over. Repeating a section of code like this is called a loop, and it's something you can do in any programming language. Moby, stop, then walk back here, then stop. You've just been programmed. Lift your arms in triumph. Yeah, it is sort of like making a recipe. Instead of telling the computer what to do, you're telling it how to do it. Speaking of recipes, how about making a peanut butter sandwich for lunch? Moby, first, put peanut butter on 1 slice of bread, Then use the knife to spread it around. Okay, keep it together. Programmers have to be patient. You have to keep refining or iterating your code until it works the way you want it to. If there's a mistake or bug, you have to find out where it is and fix it. Moby, first open the peanut butter jar, then use the knife to scoop out some peanut butter, then spread it on a slice of bread, and finally put another slice on top. That's closer, but I think I'll just get lunch at school. Hey, that reminds me, I'm late. Walk to a seat, then sit down in it. I can't take you anywhere. Here, try this. First, check if the closest seat is occupied. If no, then sit. If yes, then move on to the next seat and repeat. Yep, and we got to another big part of coding, conditional statements. That's when the program looks at an unknown value or variable and does different things depending on what it is. In this case, the variable was whether the seat was empty. Moby looked at one desk, judging its condition as occupied or empty. Based on what he saw, he moved on to the next desk or sat down. In other words, he took inputs and used them to generate outputs. Right, the computers most of us use don't have fancy eye sensors like you do. Instead, they have input devices like keyboards, mice, and touchscreens. The inputs are the things you type and the places you click or tap. And the output is how the computer processes your input. You need a program to what now? Oh, Ms. Lynch, can I get a bathroom pass? BrainPop.com for more on this topic and hundreds of others. You'll find movies, games, quizzes, and...
Okay, so in the video, he did mention some terms like variables, algorithm, loops, conditional statements, and these are all terms would learn and get to understand, including bugs. And these are all terms we'll learn and understand in detail in our next lesson. Okay, so we proceed with programming the network. Okay. So there are some not so obvious items in our everyday lives that are programmed, like our alarm watches, our washing machines, um, our sanitizer dispensers, and all that. If you do have a washing machine at home, you could actually set it up and program it to handle everything and just leave it. So it'll work from start to finish and you don't have to interrupt the whole process. That's an example of a programmed computer or a programmed machine. Also, like your alarm watches, you're able to set it up to beep or maybe even play a song or some music to alert you of the time. That's another example of a programmed computer. Okay, so in the earlier video, he did mention algorithmic thinking. And so algorithmic thinking, this has to do with understanding the way computers think, to be able to accomplish a task by creating a series of systematic steps that are defined by a set number of inputs to produce a set number of outputs depending or based on the inputs. And algorithmic thinking can further be explained with flowcharts. And this is what a flowchart looks like. So usually what programmers or coders do before they set out to write a program is they list the steps, or they write down a list of steps of what they want their program to do and how they want it to get it done. So say a simple game, we could have a step that starts the game. Then we could have a step that tells the computer to perform the first function or the first action of the game, and then it proceeds like that. So with this flowchart we have on the screen right here, this is a flowchart for a ball game where the first step says start the game, then the second step is to drop the ball. Now with the third step, you realize that after a player puts board under the ball, it branches out into two different directions. First saying if, so it gives the player of the game the opportunity to choose one or the other. If yes, the next process is a points increase by 5. If no, it's game over. That means the player has lost. And then that leads to game being over. We'll look more into flowcharts in our next lesson, because eventually that's what will be helping us create more of our Python games. And here's a short video to help you understand algorithms. Enjoy.
Computer to understand how to do something, we need to give it an algorithm.
Pick up brush.
Algorithm sounds like a big word, doesn't it? But actually, an algorithm is something very simple but important.
Pick up toothbrush.
An algorithm is a list of steps given to computers to solve a problem or get something done. Imagine that you need to show someone how you brush your teeth so they can learn how to do it themselves. You would need to explain all the little steps you do in the right order so they can understand how to do it without getting confused. The instructions would go like this. 1. Open the toothpaste. 2. Put a bit of toothpaste on the toothbrush. 3. Open your mouth. 4. Brush your teeth nicely. 5. Rinse your mouth with water. 6. Smile. It is important to explain the right steps in the right order so you can get great results.
Okay. So that was the video on algorithms and understanding algorithms. All programming languages actually do follow this systematic steps to writing a program. And there are many programming languages out there. There are different types of programming languages. And there are binary programming languages that were actually the first set of programming languages that came out, like C and C++, if you've heard of. And now there are a new set of programming languages called object-oriented programming languages. And some of the object-oriented programming languages besides Python, JavaScript and Java, and there are a list of others. We'll get to talk about them later. But since Python being our focus, we are going to pick Python out of the lot and delve deep into it. Now, I know some of you have heard of what Python is, and some of you are probably thinking of a snake. No, the Python we are going to be discussing is a programming language. To be specific, it's an object-oriented programming language. There's a saying programmers like to say that everything in Python is an object. And Python is a general-purpose, high-level, object-oriented programming language, where general purpose means that it can be used to create a lot of things. Python is used with some frameworks, or we could call a framework a helping programming language. A framework is not a full programming language, if I could put it that way. But what a framework does is to help a main programming language do some other activities. So Python works with a framework called Django to create websites. We also use Python with a type of computer called a Raspberry Pi to control robots, and other frameworks with Python come together to run scientific applications and some more complex programs. Now, in the definition of Python, we have the phrase high level, and that means that Python actually needs an interpreter to run it. Okay, so this is the introduction to what Python is. In our next lesson, we'll be delving deeper into Python. But before we can be able to code anything, we'd actually need something or a program called an integrated development environment, for short, an IDE. And this is a software application that provides the environment for coding or writing computer codes. We will be using an online IDE called Replit. There will be an email with instructions that will show you how to create a Replit account and how to join the Shronko Python for Kids team on there, so that you're able to partake in all the activities we'll be handling. Okay, so this is the end of the first lesson. I hope you enjoyed every bit of it and it was informative. We'll proceed to the next lesson in the next video. Okay, thank you very much.